Welcome back. Now, as the struggle continues to have teachers resume work, the heavy burden has indeed been carried by the students. Recently, we saw a little girl on national media crying because she was ordered to go home because teachers were on strike. Today, we want to look at the education sector in the country from the eyes of an educationist, Janet Muthoni Ouko. She's the coordinator of Elimu Yetu, which is a civil society coalition. With her vast experience in education advocacy and program management, which dates back to 2003, she's indeed fit to answer some of our concerns. Welcome to the Power Breakfast Show, Janet Muthoni.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps you could talk to us about Elimu Yetu Coalition. What is it all about?
Yeah, Elimu Yetu Coalition is a national platform for all civil society organizations, professional groupings, and teacher unions. Indeed, the Kenya Union for Post-Primary Teachers is one of our members that are working in education and to influence the government to ensure that the education policies are friendly to the achievement of education for all. And this dates back, the coalition was formed in 1999, and this is to fast track the Jomtien conference that articulated issues of that really it is a priority, that there need to be universal free primary education. And so the coalition was formed at a national level to just keep the government in check and also to encourage the local donors to also support the government in ensuring that at least we are achieving education for all in the country.
Perhaps how significant has your presence been in the education sector?
Yes, it has been quite significant because the education sector has not been very accountable, and at least there being a lobby group in Kenya that is telling the government, look here, you have signed all these declarations, you have signed the Dakar Declaration that is talking about these 6 priorities within the education sector. So show us the progress. So we've been working with government and actually putting the government on track in terms of, you have this number of teachers, but it is not, making a lot of impact. In fact, when the NAC government was coming in 2003, we had already developed a manifesto, and that manifesto was heavily borrowed by the NAC government. And actually, we can even say that the issues of free primary education, we were the biggest champion for free primary education, and we worked with government to probably implement, and even after 2003, just checking the progress and just saying, okay, what have we done wrong and what do we need to do right? So we've been here for quite a long time, and now I think the focus for the coalition is saying, especially after the loss of the free primary education funds and so many accountability issues that have come up, bedeviling the sector. So we have worked with government to ensure that we have a brand new Education Act that addresses all these issues. And key among that is ensuring that the participation of stakeholders, because largely education has been left probably to the teachers and the government. But the parents have been out, the students or the learners have been out. But now if you look at the Education Act, there's space for everybody. There's space for the parents because they also are a huge stakeholder. There's space even for student councils so that we can try and see how can we mainstream or how can we ensure that there is accountability within the sector.
So what do? When you see a problem,
yes.
Say for instance when the free primary school money was stolen,
yes.
Of course we knew, not from you, but from the owners of the money, when they said, oh, you have stolen our money, we want it back.
Yes.
We didn't get to know what was the involvement in it.
Yeah, and I think that has been the problem. Indeed, you point at the problem because so many people were out there, including civil society. At that particular time, we were working with a government that had not even embraced so many other players. So a lot of things were being done behind closed doors, and even as civil society, we also learned about the scandal from other people after it happened. But I think also we had worked very closely with the committee of experts that was making the constitution, and just entrenching issues of citizen participation within the constitution is one of the things that has now opened up processes within government, within the Ministry of Education, and it is good that now nothing can happen within the Ministry of Education without us, because we are saying there is nothing about us without us. And it is not something that civil society is saying, it is something that is within the Constitution. So we are saying in the budget making process, how are we coming in and where are we coming in, because we really have to be there. And it is interesting because if you look at the Basic Education Act of 2012, for example, in the formation of the National Education Board, civil society are players there. They want to determine who sits at the National Education Board. The parents are also there. The teacher unions are also there. So we really can say that we have made a lot of impact, because we have made sure that at least the system is more open. And I think it's very important for Kenyans and citizens to know that you just cannot be reactionary. You want to be there within the process, so that you also contribute towards probably more accountable systems, as opposed to where you leave the government to do their own thing and then you wait later to watch for any complaint, is when now you come and raise it when processes have moved a bit. So I would really say that there has been a lot of change, and I can almost begin seeing, because the panel that is selecting the National Education Board has begun its processes. So we are looking towards, probably in the future, a more open and more accountable education system in Kenya. So really there's a lot of hope.
Because if I may take you back to a report that was actually posted on the Standard back in 2011, saying free primary education now an avenue for corruption as parents continue to pay fees. Has anything really changed?
Nothing much has changed, and that is why I am insisting on citizen participation. Because, for example, if you look at why don't we have free primary education, for example, most of these levies are illegal levies. And who imposes these levies? It just goes back to the teacher, because the teacher is the person who is at the center of where everything is happening, and most parents don't even participate. Move to the secondary level, for example, and you will find the Ministry of Education has a very good policy. And this is the policy on the free-day secondary education, dated back in 2009. But why isn't it being implemented as it is supposed to be? Because it is very clear. Before a secondary school increases school fees, there is a structure they're supposed to follow. But what happens? The parents are cheated out of the process, because probably they are not aware. They do not even turn out for the general meetings. So what happens is that the teachers have a lot of leeway, really, to manipulate even the school fee structure. And that is why you see, as much as the government is saying, look here, parents, what you're supposed to pay per year is 28,000. But go to schools, they're paying 80,000, they're paying 60,000. And the teachers can justify. They're saying this one is meant for the bus, this one is meant for this. But if you read the policy as a parent, it is saying a school cannot implement 2 projects at a time. So you're not supposed to charge a parent for a bus, at the same time charging for a library, at the same time charging for something else. But parents are not aware. But with the current Education Act, the parents, the PTAs have a very strong role within the school boards of management. So it is up to the parents to take up that role very actively. And I think also we also need parents to come up, because they're the major stakeholders. Look at now, we've got a teacher strike. Who is suffering more? As much as the children are suffering, or the learners are suffering, the parents have paid school fees. The children have been out for 2 weeks. Who is going to, are we going to see an arrangement such as, we did not spend this in terms of food and all this? Are we going to see parents being refunded that money? No. But the parents are just quiet. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to participate.
We have an association with a gentleman who was here the other day called Ndunda, the Kenya Association of Parents.
Yes. No, I think I want to ask the parents today, who does Musa Udunda speak for? Where are you as a parent? Are you a member of that association? You know about it? You know it exists? Have you bothered?
He claimed he has got membership in schools. The PTAs in schools, a number of schools are members of, that's what he claimed.
Yeah, but I think we want to see parents taking a more proactive role, lest all of us be taken up and being, be represented by somebody, or, because parents really are absent. Because I walk to a school myself and I ask, parents come to us complaining, we are paying all this amount of school fees, and we ask them, do you even have the copy of the minutes where this kind of school fees was increased? No, I don't have. And then on what basis are you paying? Because you were absent when decisions were being made on your behalf. So now, why are you running all over? And I think parents, let us get more involved, because at the end of the day, it's about our children. We are paying so much money. If you look currently at the budget, the national budget on education, the taxpayers are paying a lot of money to public education. But what returns are you getting out of it?
There's a concern here. If this is known to you, yes, and perhaps to other stakeholders, and parents are not necessarily taking part in the whole process of pushing for accountability,
yes,
apart from the parents, who else is supposed to also stand and push for answers?
Well, I think parents, I would begin by parents, because looking at this as a business, really, it affects you directly, you as a parent, and then also it affects the community, because it's not the entire, everybody in the community that is a parent probably in that particular school. You may not even have a child there. But I think simply because education affects you, affects your neighbor and everybody else, so the community also has got a stake. But looking at how education has been managed in this country, even go back to the villages and all that, and you see members of the board. For you to be a member of the board especially, it used to be the councillor, the village councillor. And I mean, what stake, for example, does he have, apart from probably just adding that one to your cape and probably ensuring that you're marshalling more votes? So we are talking about even a community that is not serious about an education they are so heavily financing. Let me tell you that currently in a domestic budget, there isn't anything that is taking much bill than the education budget, even at a family level. So you would really wonder, why aren't parents getting so much? Because I would have expected parents even to come out, individual parents to come out. Some of them are having candidates in their houses. And look at this discussion, the way it is going. It's turning out to be a showdown between the teachers and the government. So where are the parents? Where are the learners? When you take children on the streets, everybody, including the human rights activists, will tell you that you're misusing the children because the Children's Act does not allow the children to go out to the streets. So really, who represents the children if their own parents themselves are either too busy or too quiet to speak about these issues that press them each and every day? So I think parents have really let down the education sector, and they ought to wake up and do something.
Now, last year, September, more than 100 students through Elimu Yetu Coalition Trust actually sued teachers who were on strike, demanding to be compensated for their learning days lost. That was then. What are you doing now? And was it fruitful?
I think for me, it was fruitful. And how we as civil society organizations work, we embrace everyone as a stakeholder. So for us, even now, what we've been doing is that we've talked to the unions, we've been talking to the unions, and just telling them some of the things that Kenyans will not tell them. Because, for example, when members of parliament were asking for more pay, everybody was asking them, you people have not even worked. So at that particular time, Kenyans were applying this argument of accountability. So we pay you for the kind of work we do. But now when it comes to our teachers, Kenyans are silent on that. They're not telling the teachers, look, you have to work. The results have been very poor over time. We are looking at a situation where the mean score for last year was a D. For the KCSE, it was a plain D, and nobody is saying, you're not working. We have a World Bank report that is talking about 47% of teachers at any given time in public schools are not teaching. They're either absent or they're in school, but they're not teaching. Kenyans are not engaging teachers in that kind of a discourse. So we are telling the teachers, can we advance these two types of debates? Yes, you deserve better pay, you do great work. But can we also begin seeing more accountability, especially coming from you? Can we see unions articulating with the same vigor issues of accountability about the teachers? So we've been engaging in that. And I think the last court case for us was, there was a very big statement coming from the judge at that time, and this was in reference to Article 37 of the Constitution. And this Article 37 is giving the teachers and every worker the right to picket and all that. And that is what has been floated around, that yes, the teachers have their right, yes, they have. But in the same Constitution, Article 43 and Article 53 is talking about the right to children to education. So we want to look at that and say, really, which one is greater than the other? And I think the judge was very clear in terms of saying the rights of millions of children can really not be equated to the rights of individuals, really, who are looking for personal rights. And I think as Kenyans, really, we voted for a very good constitution, but we must ask ourselves, in a situation where now the constitution guarantees the right to education for millions of children in Kenya, but now they're not in school. 2 weeks down the line, this is the third week down the line. So who speak on behalf of those children? Or what as Kenyans, can we say today that Article 43 and Article 53 are things that we cannot achieve, they're things that we cannot realize? Because when teachers wake up one day, they can decide 2 months, there is not going to be any business being transacted in public schools. So really, what are we saying about that? And I think it's a very unfortunate state of affairs. We've seen children crying, but they have nowhere to go. They have no money, they cannot sue the teachers.
Tell us the solution. Yes. You as the coalition, they strike, what are you going to do about it? It's now, as you say, third week. So what are you going to do to ameliorate, to improve?
I think we have some groups or some individuals who we are working with, and definitely moving to court will be a very good option, because somebody has to take responsibility. Somebody has to take responsibility, and we have to really get an interpretation and guiding for the future. What happens really in the situation where the right of children is not realized because of one impediment or the other? Who compensates the child? Because I will tell you, and this you will see, after the collective bargaining agreement and being signed by the government and the teacher unions, the first statement will read that there is not going to be victimization for any teacher. That is going to be the first statement.
Yes.
So, teachers can participate in a strike and go scot-free. All their money is going to be paid, and they're not going to be victimized or charged for anything. But what happens to the learners? What happens to the damage the parents will go through? A lot of them were seriously inconvenienced. You're called from Mombasa to go and get your child in Rift Valley. You had no budget like that one. So the parents suffer with impunity. The children suffer with impunity. But there's one group of people who have, they're covered. They're covered. So I think those are some of the accountability issues that we must come out very clearly. Even as a government, the government must take responsibility for running the education sector if Kenyans are to have the same confidence in public schools. Because this debate will come towards the end of the year. Private schools have done so well, then we will be all over victimizing the same parents who are paying highly and those children who are in school throughout. But we will come up with a cut-off system and say, so that we accommodate everyone in the national schools, we must have this kind of cut-off. So then again, we will still go back to saying that the private children, they have worked so hard when these other children were at home. I don't think we don't have a fair system in this country.
Just looking at the teacher strike, there was an article that was written by Enoch Wambua, the associate editor, Sunday Nation, saying teacher strike, a concoction of mischief, greed and dishonesty, and basically looking at the government and the teachers' unions. And he termed the Education Cabinet Secretary and his Labour counterpart as a disgrace to civility, men of little wisdom, and represent the ugly face of a past we all want to break away from.
Wow,
what would you say about that?
Well, I think it's fair also for Kenyans to apportion blame. And I really like likening this one so much to what we saw with members of parliament, because this is I think so many Kenyans know about it. When we were saying that the members of parliament need to earn little, some of the arguments that were coming out are that when they increased their salaries in the last house, when they increased their salary, it is not clear under what circumstance or under which frameworks they worked. All of us were saying that. There were no frameworks, so somebody to check about sustainability, affordability and all that. That was not respected. So we come back when it is our teachers, and we are looking at a 1997 agreement that was signed at the height of a political, because that time Moi it was an electioneering period. And that time I think Moi was under duress, because these are teachers threatening to go on strike. You're having an election, so really you wouldn't want that. So an agreement is signed. So today we are not sitting down and saying, so many years down the line, 16 actually, we have new frameworks. We have got new institutions that we have created. Can we also check that kind of an agreement with sustainability? The same yardsticks we used for the members of parliament, why can't we use them now? I'm not speaking on behalf of government, but I am just saying, can we as Kenyans be fair to all of us? Let us not appear to be very harsh to members of parliament when they're asking for this, but we are not very harsh for teachers, and when we really don't have very clear, yardsticks that we are using. But based on that, I think I want to say that the government, for once, really has come out very clearly and said, can we negotiate? But they want to negotiate within a framework. The Salaries and Remunerations Commission have also given their advice based on that. So if the teacher unions are really not able to take that, I think we also need to know that probably as the situations have changed now. We are not saying that we don't want to go to the past where the minister can come and offer something, and then we are the same Kenyans who will say, but the Salaries and Remunerations Commission had advised this way. So I'm looking also as Kenyans, we're also not helping matters, because we are not open, because we are also not as transparent, and we are not fair. We want to use this measure to these people, but we also want to use this other measure to these other people, and I think it's not fair at all.
Does your coalition deal with higher education?
Yes, it does.
And if you do, there is a lot of complaint. In fact, even today's newspapers were about, there's a whole article saying that the university education that is being offered in this country, particularly because of the introduction of those parallel courses, universities have become money minting machines.
Yeah.
The curriculum is not good. Whatever is offered, the degrees are rubbish. In fact, there was one very embarrassing situation when one cabinet secretary was being interviewed for, no, not a principal secretary, that they named the Presbyterian University at Kikuyu, where they said teachers are not paid their salaries. Therefore, they set examinations, they did not mark, but the graduation went on. Some courses are being offered there which are not even accredited by the Council of Higher Education. If you go to your own university at Kenyatta, you hear students went to attend examinations for after a semester. The lecturers did not give the scripts. They are missing. I have a relative who is there who lost the scripts.
Yeah.
So they have to repeat a semester because some lecturer did not deliver the scripts. What kind of mess is this in our universities?
Well, and I think it's not only at university level. These are the accountability issues that we are struggling with, you know, in the education sector. And I think there's a lot of hope because you can see the steps we have made from a situation where the vice chancellors used to be selected. You know, the chancellors were the prerogative of the president and so on. So this one, and even there have been so many claims about tribalism, ethnicity, nepotism within the university, you know, higher education subsector. But I think there's a lot of hope in the education reforms that have gone on, and we have a brand new Universities Act. And what this one does is what I've been talking about, opening up spaces for other people to participate. For example, as a parent, you know, how do you interact, you know, with the university? And I think this has been missing because we have been seeing annual general meetings at secondary school level and even at primary school level, but the parents don't even have an interface with the university. And I think as a parent, when you pay money, it is up to you to know what kind of business is going on, what value for money you're getting from there. And I think if every parent, and especially at university level, and even students themselves at university level are people who are able to take responsibility, they can be able to read the Universities Act, understand it well, and even probably attempt to interpret it to their parents, so that that kind of accountability, I think there need to be that engagement between the students and the university. And also the whole issue of the students' unions at the university level. If the vice chancellors and the Senate can also give room for the student leaderships to thrive and not just convert them to be grievance, you know, we have converted our university unions to be just grievance handling machines. And so people who only want to strike or people, but not people who add value. And I think that opening up of space, because even the framework for student leadership is very well defined within the Universities Act. And we are now likely to see a lot of value addition and engagement, as opposed to a situation where the student union is just looked at as an opposition within the university.
There's a concern here because you focused on the responsibility that parents have and of course even the students.
Yes.
But somebody feels here you're not balanced. Are there no structures in the Ministry of Education to ensure, for example, the right fees are paid?
And that is why I'm saying, I come from a civil society orientation. Yes, these frameworks have been there, but they have not worked. So how do we make them work? Because the laws are there, but they're not being followed. So what do you do to ensure that they are followed? Because I have no machinery to ensure that the Ministry of Education really sticks to what they have said, implements the policies they have set up to implement. So it is me to check, to ensure that those policies are being implemented at the school level. So by you checking, you will prompt the Ministry of Education to act. You know, that's what I'm saying about citizens' engagement, about citizens really reading and knowing what kind of service are we supposed to get and demanding that that service is given. I think that is the discourse here.
Perhaps just to look at the education system as we come to a close. Last year, of course, there was debate over the current system, 844 system, with some calling for its replacement with a more continuous and diverse 26333 program. You are absolutely opposed to that.
No. I think somebody needs to check their records. Because
as according to Business Daily, 27th March 2012.
That's why I want to explain to you what we were opposed to is the implementation. I think we were already in agreement, and so many other stakeholders felt this way, that the kind of system we're having, and this is the 844 system, is not even the 844 system we are implementing anyway because if you look at now, 2 years already have been brought into the education system. So it's no longer 844, it is now something else altogether. If you look at how 844 was supposed to be, there was supposed to be home science, there was supposed to be art and craft. It no longer takes place. So really, I'm not even sure we're implementing 844. But I want to say that the mind behind 844 was a very good mind. But then we failed at implementation level. Because what 844 meant to do was to realize that so many other people have other things, apart from the cognitive domain.
Yeah.
You have people who have got talent, you have people who can do, this craft work and so on. So 844 sought to create space for such people. But when we go to implementation, that was the mess. Because it was only a pronouncement that let us implement this kind of curriculum. But the teachers were not retooled to reorganize themselves and even to build their own capacity in terms of implementing this brand new curriculum. So what used to happen, I'm sure me and some other people who have gone through it before will know, that when a teacher asked for a stool, you could even buy it and take it for the assessment. Because at school, you don't even have a hammer, you don't even have anything, and even that teacher cannot even help you to make that particular stool. So that is what used to happen.
In fact, I remember I had a boy in school, and we were asked to bring what do you call those, the saw. And my son, he left the school without having used that saw.
So
not one day did he use the saw.
Yeah. So going back to what you were saying, so we have now reached a situation where, and especially with the right to education, because the right to education has really revolutionized a lot of things. So we are saying we are only letting a few group of people succeed. And these are the people who can pass in physics, they can pass in science, but these other people who have got talent, these other people who can do other things, and they are not very gifted in their cognitive, domain, where do we take them? The constitution is very clear. If you want to be a senator, you must have a degree. But the people who can get degrees in this country are only this group of people. So why don't we advance even the talent and ensure that we create streams so that these people who have talent can also be taught how to manage even that talent.
And even make toothpicks instead of buying them from China.
But what we were having a problem with is the implementation. Because what the government will do is just wake up one day and say, let there be this system, and cause the entire confusion. The curriculum has not been revised, the teachers have not been retooled, and situations and even equipment have not been set up. So I think our opposition was coming in at the implementation level. But I think the Basic Education Act is very clear. It is talking about that the cabinet secretary, in consultation with stakeholders, is going to chart the way forward in terms of how we want the school structure to be. But I think the emphasis is here. The emphasis is not even in the number of years that you can spend in a particular stream or in a particular sector. The emphasis is, can we stop this discrimination immediately? Because 800,000 children enter, sit their class 8. Only few of them go to secondary school, and only very few of them go to the university. So where do the rest go to? They go to crime, they go to child labor, they go to early marriages. What kind of a Kenya or a country are we creating for all of us? Yeah.
Right, perhaps as we wind up, recently we saw a girl, Pauline Atieno, a standard 7 pupil at a primary school in Mombasa, crying when she was, of course, ordered by the head teacher to go home. Is there hope for the Paulines in this country?
Unless the government takes personal responsibility, and unless the government becomes very clear about implementing the constitution, there is absolutely no hope. You cannot be having a sector such as education being crippled for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. Just remember last time, it was really insensitive because it was during an examination period, and the strike was on for 3 years without anybody blinking. We are talking about a country where now we cannot even enforce court orders. So what hope really? Okay, who can speak for Pauline? There is nobody to speak for Pauline. And I think, I don't want to blame the teachers. They have their right, according to Article 37 of the Constitution. But it is not the responsibility of unions in this country to offer education. It is the responsibility of government. So when education is not taking place, then there's something very wrong with the government of the day, and actually they have no business being in office. If something as simple as education is not taking place, I will tell you one thing. When 10 Kenyans die, a state of emergency in wherever place, and so many machinery are sent there, we are talking about millions of Kenyan children who are in their homes. So many things are happening. If you see Pauline crying, this is what it means. That school is the only safe place for me. If I am not in school, something else can take place. I can even get pregnant. You know, so it's a matter of life and death. And for me, it's a matter that government needs to take in very seriously. What we don't need to see are these pleas. They might be passionate, but they are not yielding results. So something needs to be done. Let government take responsibility. Because if children are not in school, you have no business being in government.
Is it possible for the Cabinet Secretary for Education and the Principal Secretary to ignore your organization?
It's not possible. It is not possible.
Why not?
Because they know we add value, a lot of value. We add a lot of value, and they know that in one way or another we support each other. Because, for example, I can say I can tell the unions today that really you must follow the constitution, because you're not above you're not above the law. You're a citizen like any other person. So if you're not able to obey a court order, tell me what business has government to obey a notice? Really, but the permanent secretary may not be able to say this, because he will be saying, you know. So that's what I'm saying. That can we tell government take responsibility, and as well as every other Kenyan, can you live above board?
Would you recommend that these people in the not be arrested for contempt of court?
In the interest of talks, because we don't want to see headlines, because the moment we go that way, we are likely to see a lot of power struggles and all that, and the person who suffers really is there. So let Kenyans be the judge. Let Kenyans be the judge. How do you want your country to be run? If you want a country where I can be issued with a court order and I don't respect it, I mean, so be it.
Right, many thanks indeed. Talking to Janet Muthoni Ouko, who's an educationist, specifically coordinator of Elimu Yetu Coalition. We'll be right